We are now joined by our insider, the host of the Hoop Collective podcast, Mr. Brian Windhorst. Welcome. I want to get right into it. Ben Simmons did not return for the second half Wednesday night at Utah because of what the team called a sprained AC joint in his right shoulder. He will be reevaluated today. Tracy, are the Sixers in trouble if Simmons has to miss any extended time?
Nope. In the Eastern Conference, they're fine. Al Horford, Joel Embiid, they're going to carry the load. I don't see him missing significant amount of time. I mean, I remember early in the season, I dealt with a torn labrum. And you're talking about painful, have to go through the season. And I'm a shooter, a scorer.
Say it.
Ben Simmons is not that, right? So he doesn't have, and it's on his non-shooting.
Every injury
so
Tracy's had.
That's true. This is why he needed load management.
I'm not worried about it at all. They got enough to hold down the fort in the Eastern Conference.
My only issue is how he injured it. That is a move that we see him do often, right? Because he's not a shooter, he's not a scorer, so he's typically, I got a smaller guy, I want to bang him in the post. Sure. If you can't bang somebody with that shoulder, then all of a sudden, like if this move is taken out of his game because he's afraid to injure it, we saw Anthony Davis not have guys pick him up with his left hand. He's like, pick me up with my right. Because those are the issues. Like, yo, if I can't do that to a player out of risk of injury, it can affect their game. I don't think him missing time is going to affect them, but that injury could.
It depends on how you define trouble. I mean, are their title chances hurt if he misses a couple of weeks? No. But their backup point guard situation is not great. They're playing Josh Richardson, in my opinion, out of position at backup point guard. He's averaging as many turnovers as he is assists. It's actually one of the issues on the team that they need to address with before the injury. They lost T.J. McConnell in the offseason, and then Raul Neto, and they haven't even been playing Trey Burke. They're not great at point guard depth. So short term, I do think it affects them. And remember, and I've never had a shoulder injury, but what I know from people who have, like Tracy, is that shoulder injuries heal slowly. And they're using the word sprain, which means that there's ligament damage.
Right.
So let's not freak out, but it's not something that he's going to come back from A-OK tomorrow.
Listen, Trey Burke is a quality backup for them. He can score the ball. He played for the Knicks and had a,
Don't reference Knicks on anybody's resume. Just don't do that.
You just
you said something
Tracy,
positive
don't you
and
pretend you
devalued
never
him.
played for the Knicks?
He does.
He does pretend.
He said, what? I played for the Knicks?
Give other people that same courtesy.
Oh, all you Twitter people send it to me.
It would be fine. Trey Burke is a solid backup.
I agree.
He should get some solid minutes and help out.
I want to move on to the second runner-up for MVP last season. That's a nice fancy way to say someone came in third. Paul George. He was getting some shots up on the court before the game last night. Also, speaking of a torn labrum, look at that. Everything just wrapped up. Doc Rivers saying he's going to begin 5-on-5 work, quote, very, very soon. Remember, he'd been targeting mid-November to come back. So, Richard, what changes when Paul George is added to a team that is already a title favorite?
Well, there's going to be an adjustment period, right? Yes, they're great, but this is something that is new for him. And then you have Kawhi and obviously this great core group of guys that made it to the postseason. We've already been watching how everybody else has been, gelling, right? How, Bron and AD, what's going on in Philly. We've been watching all of this kind of movement. So I'm really excited to see what we believe to be the best team. Now, all of a sudden, maybe it gets there and they're still really, really good, but they're not far away the best team. I think they have an opportunity for that. So we'll see when he comes back.
I think short term, it means Landry Shamet will go to the bench and Paul will go into the starting lineup. He's one of the best two guards in the game. And I expect them to monitor his minutes early on. If he does come back next week, which is a possibility, hasn't been established, they do have a back-to-back next week. Guess what? Another back-to-back with a national TV game. Boy, aren't we looking forward to talking about that. I wouldn't be surprised if he does play in that back-to-back that he wouldn't play in both, as an example. So doesn't mean that, I think they're going to, slowly bring him in.
Yeah, I just think from a defensive standpoint, adding Paul George into this lineup with these guys, it's going to be phenomenal to watch. I see them shutting teams down to like 85, 90 points some nights just on the defensive end. So I look forward to that.
Paul George has told me that Scottie Pippen is who he modeled a lot of his game after. And I think that's an interesting comp, not just for how they play on the court, but these are guys who could definitely be the 1A player on so many teams in the NBA. I just mentioned he was an MVP finalist. But they like being what I would call a cohort, not really a number two necessarily, but playing with another really good guy. And the way Scottie was very comfortable in the role he had with MJ, I think Paul George is going to be very comfortable in the role he has with Kawhi. I don't see them clashing or having the personalities, because you would see it on some teams, right? We saw Russ and KD. We've seen this on some teams. And I feel like the personality and who Paul George has sort of modeled himself after, he is going to slip right in chemistry-wise with those Clippers. And I think that's a big deal when you talk about time to gel and
they're going to be a
all
problem.
that stuff.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis and highlights, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.